Exercise 4 brings up two topics that I want to make sure that we cover well before we get into the next chapter. The next chapter is on algorithms, and it's going to be important that we master the two concepts that are introduced here, and that is arrays and loops. So let me point out where these things are, and then I'll talk about what each one is. An array is a collection of things. In this case, we want to have a collection of integers. So this is the array that I'm using here. And to declare it, you use the brackets. So if you want an integer array, you would say integer brackets. If you wanted a string array, you would say it like this up here. And then give it a name. So in here, we're calling this integer array turns. Up here, we're calling this string array args. And then you have to give it a value if you want to assign it immediately. And this way we're using curly braces, and then in between we separate the values with a comma. So here the integer array is going to contain a 2, then another 2, then a 1, then a 3. Now in class I'll go a little bit more specific into the indexes of arrays and things like that, but for now just know that we're containing these four things that we are calling turns. That's the name of the collection, and it's of the type integer array. The other concept that we're bringing up in this is loops. So a loop is something that is going to repeat until a certain condition becomes true. And in this case, we are creating a condition that is an integer condition. So we're going to say j is going to be equal to 1 to start, and j is going to be less than or equal to another variable called times, and then we're going to increment j every time we loop it. So let's say we pass 4 to this function called turn. It's going to basically say j equals 1 to 4, and then increment. So every time it loops, it increments. So the first time it turns, the second time through j equals 2, and then it turns, and the third time j equals 3, and then it turns, and then it basically this is just going around in a circle here, and every time it's incrementing one value onto j. So when it reaches the end of this code, it will execute this line by line. So first it sets it up, j equals 1, it goes to this line, this line, this line, and then repeats. And then on the repeat, it increments j. So when j finally gets to 4, then it's going to execute its final time for turn, and then when it executes this statement again, j is going to be 5, and 5 has to be less than or equal to 4 to continue, and it's not. So that's called breaking the loop, and that means that it will not run this, it will actually continue on down to this line. So the for loop is going to run from 1 to 4, and then once j becomes greater than 4, it goes down to here, which means it's the end of this, and it can carry on with the rest of the program. So these two concepts, the integer array and the loop, are going to be the necessary ingredients here to run this program successfully. So let me go ahead and push play and show you what Bug Runner is going to do, or Dancing Bug Runner. Now I want you to keep in mind that if the bug can move, it will move. But if it runs into a wall, it can't move. So an example would be if I hit step, it goes through this integer array, makes its turns, tries to move, and if it can't move, then it just is going to go to the next step, which is turning again. So again, it's pointing at the wall here, so if I hit step, it still can't turn, or it still can't move forward. So it's actually going to be on this third step that it actually breaks away from the wall a little bit. So let me explain to you as it goes through the array how these turns and moves are going to act. So keep in mind that when I started this, let me shrink this down, that it says an array entry of 5 represents a turn of 225 degrees. So every turn is a 45-degree interval. So keep that in mind, that a 2 actually represents 90-degree turns. So I've got a 90-degree turn, a 90-degree turn, a 45-degree turn, and a 135-degree turn. So here it's facing west. A 90-degree turn would make it face north. And then another 90-degree turn is going to make it face east. So that's the first two moves in this array. So now with it facing east, we have a 45-degree turn. That's going to make it face southeast towards the corner here. And then a 135-degree turn is going to make it face southwest. And then because it can move at that point, it will take this square. It's going to move into this square. So let me go ahead and hit step. And then it's going to repeat this pattern all over again. But every time it's like pointing at a different square, and if it can advance, it will. So let me go ahead and hit step, and you can see that it ran through this, and then it went to this square. So if I just go ahead and run this, you're going to see it run through this pattern of 90 degree, 90 degree, 45, and 135 until the whole pattern successfully moves it along into this nice arrangement. So in class, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the indexes of arrays and loops. And when we put all this together, things like arrays, loops, conditional statements, and the different operators that we can use are going to be vitally important for us to understand when we move into the next chapter about algorithms, because those are going to be all necessary ingredients for some of our recipes, some of our programs that we're putting together.